my name's Tuppence. I have my sister to thank for this week's make. She gave me the idea, and she also gave me these tiny little koi fish. She works with resin too, and she made a really gorgeous fish paperweight. So inspired by that, I thought I would have a go, and instead of putting it into a half sphere, I'm going to put it into a full sphere. I want to make a couple of little bubbles and put the little fish in. Now, I say little, I am really hoping that they are going to fit. Let me show you what they look like. They're about the length of my baby nail, so I'm pretty sure I can fit them in there. Whether I can get them through the hole in the top is another matter. I'm going to be using craft UV resin. I've got some little bits of glass, coloured glass. Got some other colours here as well. I've got some moss, a couple of acrylic paint pens, the sphere moulds themselves, and the fish. So I'm going to have a go. Before I start, I need to make a few changes to the fish. So this is how they arrived. They are slightly iridescent, but they're all exactly the same. They're just orange. There's no distinction between them whatsoever. And koi fish, they tend to have sort of nice markings on them. White, black, red. So I want to add a little bit of paint to these and just change them up a little bit. I'm going to use an acrylic paint pen. I think that will be easier than trying to paint it with a brush. This paint, once it's dry, that is waterproof, and it should stick pretty well to this fish, even though they are plastic. So I'm just going to put some random splotches on here and try and make each one a little bit different. I'm sorry if you can't see what I'm doing. It's really difficult to hold these still and paint them. Can't grab it. Let me grab a pair of tweezers and see if I can hold that still, and then my big fingers won't be in the way and you should see what I'm doing. Try and grab that. Okay, that will do. So I'll put some splotches on here. I've got to let this completely dry before I can add the black. The white is dry. I'm going to add some of the black. So I'm keeping that fairly sparse. I don't want to put too much of this on. I'll just draw a few lines. Sometimes I'm following the white pattern that I've already put there, and other times I'll just make splotches, but I'm really not going to use a lot of black. And already I think they're looking great. Right, that needs to dry as well, and I'm going to carry on and paint some of the other fish. Now I can start to fill the spheres. The fish over here are still drying, but I've got to put a bottom layer in and cure that first. I'm going to be using these blue glass chips, and I'm going to put that in the smallest one. So if I can ever get this stupid packet open, there we go. I'm going to put a few into the bottom of this silicone cup. Now I'm not going to need very many. I can't make the layer too deep because I haven't got very much room to play with in this small sphere. I'm going to add a little bit of craft UV resin to that, just enough to make sure that all of these little chips are covered. I'll give that a mix around. Great, and now I need to try and spoon that through that tiny hole and get that into the bottom of the sphere. Normally when I use these glass chips, they are heavy enough to sink, but only if I've got enough resin in there. So I'm scooping them out of the pot just a little bit at a time, and then dropping that through the hole, pushing it in with the stick. Unfortunately, they are sort of clinging to the top of the hole, just on the inside, so might need to poke around inside and arrange them. I'm going to add a little bit more UV resin in a minute, and I think given enough resin they should just sink to the bottom. Whoops, let me move that out of the way. Let's scrape the last bit in. Come on, get in there. They are sticking to the inside. Oops, I've dropped a bit. Last one. Try and scoop that out. Okay. Right. clean that off, get in there. Just got the last little bit. Now I can add a little bit more resin, and hopefully there should be enough in there for them to all sink in the bottom. So I'll just put a couple of drops in there, just enough to cover them. I'm going to use the pointed end of this silicone tool and just try and push them all to the bottom of the mould. Get them scraped down off the sides. So there's a lot of bubbles or dots of resin on the inside of here too. So I'm going to try and clean it up. That's a little bit of silver foil that I've got on the outside. I've obviously picked that up from my mat. Alright, so they're now sitting at the bottom. I'm just going to leave that for a few seconds. Don't know if you can see through the side. It's really difficult for me to show you, but I'm going to let that settle so that everything just lays flat on the bottom. And then I can fill this one up. Now for this one, I'm going to use these gold chips, and I'm just going to do exactly the same. Okay, that needs to settle down. There's a lot of resin that is stuck on the insides up around the top. I need to get rid of that before I put these under the lamp and cure them. Otherwise that's just going to harden up and it could fall in later. So I have got a cotton bud, a cotton swab, and I'm just going to wipe those off. Try and clean as much as I can. At least get the big blobs cleaned off, and then that shouldn't cause me any issues later. Okay, that one's not too bad. Just leave that to settle again, and I'll do the same on this side with the other end of the swab. Trying not to dip it in that resin, but I think I just did. So I've probably smeared it on the inside. Okay. Not too bad. No big lumps in there. A little bit more. Alright then, this is going to sit for a couple of seconds, and then I'm going to pop this underneath my lamp. I am using a dual-sided lamp. I'm going to set these to cure for 5 minutes. Right, that first layer is all cured. It is time to add the second layer. And luckily this mould is pretty see-through, so I can see how much I'm putting in there. I'm going to put a decent amount in. That is probably about half full now, just below the halfway mark. And now I need to try and put one of the little fish in. So can I get that through the hole? Probably easier with my fingers. Okay, just wiggle that in. Oh, and of course it has landed upside down, so I'm just going to have to try and poke this around and see if I can turn that back the right way round, which is far easier said than done. So despite using 2 sticks, it took me a hot minute, but eventually I managed to flip it back over so that I could see all of those markings on the top. Right, now I just need to push that to one side and let all that resin settle down again after I'd stirred it all up. I want to put a little bit of greenery in now, and I have this. It is dried moss. I think it's called reindeer moss, I'm not sure. But I'm going to cut a little bit of it off, and hopefully I can use this as some kind of pondweed. So I only need a tiny bit. That's probably too big as well, so let me see if I can separate that a little bit. Just want a very small chunk. Try and pull that apart. It's almost like it's got barbs stuck together. I think that bit will be great for the big one. I need to do a little bit of treatment on it, so I'm going to put some UV resin there. You can see how floppy this is. So I'm going to seal this a little bit with some UV resin. That should help me keep its shape afterwards. So I'm just squashing that, coating both sides. And now I've got an awful lot of resin on there actually. I'm just going to try and spread that out and get a better shape. Okay, I think that looks a little bit more like some weed. So if it sets in that shape, it's still going to be pretty big, but that will probably fit in the bigger one. So this one, I'm going to do the same to that, and hopefully I'll be able to use some of that in the smaller one. By covering them in the UV resin, I'm not only going to make them hopefully keep their shape, but it should eliminate some of the bubbles when I do go to put that in. So let me just put that on the side. Right, I'm going to clean up my fingers, and then I'm going to put this underneath my lamp for 3 or 4 minutes. That's all cured now. I'm going to try and put this little bit of weed in. So this is a pretty big piece, but I am going to try and fit that into the smaller one. Try and use the fingers, I think is easier. If I just squeeze the top, that makes that a little wider, and then I can push that down inside. Okay. Yep, that fits. Let me get my stick, and then I can try and arrange that. So I want to push that to the opposite side away from the fish. It is quite long actually, so, and because I have put some UV resin on it, it's not going to bend to shape, but it's alright, it fits. Let me have a quick look. Yep, the fish is still the right way up. Hopefully you can just about see it through that hole. I've made a few more pieces to fit into the larger mould, but I put too much resin on this one, and you can see it's kind of flat on the back. Some of these pieces though, they're all right, so I'll be able to put a few of those in. So I'm ready to add the next layer into this one and pop the fish in. Okay, I'm going to put a really thin layer in here now. I just want enough to anchor the weed down. I'm going to add this small piece of weed, and I want this to stand up off to the side so that I've still got more room to add more fish. I just can't get that in there with the tweezers. It's better to use my fingers. So I just poke that through the hole, then I can grab hold of it with the tweezers. Right, I'm going to push this over to one side so that I don't block the hole, and I've still got plenty of room to add more fish in. Try and make that stand upright. Right, I'm taking my UV torch and I'm going to shine the light through the side and just cure the resin that is around the base of the weed. That's hopefully is going to allow it to stand up. So I don't have to do it for very long, probably about 30 seconds or so. Not even that. I think it's actually standing up already. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to shine this through the top. I just want to cure the surface of the resin so that when I go ahead I can add the next layer. It's just going to sit on top and the fish won't sink. You poke that with a stick, just see if that's cured. Yep, it is. Put another fish in now. You poke that through the hole and it's upside down again. What is with these fish? Let me just try and turn it over. Oh, that was easy. Alright, I'm just going to position that off to the side. Get it in the position that I want. That looks pretty good. And now I can top this up with some more resin. Well, just enough to cover the fish. I'm going to move that fish around, just make sure that the resin gets underneath, otherwise I'll end up with a bubble. Okay. Oops. Can you see it through there? You can just about see it. Right, I'm going to pop this underneath my lamp for 5 minutes. I'm going to add the next layer into the smaller one. So I'm still not going to fill this up just yet. I just want to add another fish and another layer. So I'm going to put a decent amount in, probably about 3/4 full maybe. You can just about see it through the side. Right, so my fish is laying here and I want to put another fish on the other side so that it is swimming in the other direction. Unfortunately, they all are exactly the same, so you don't have any going in any different directions. But I can probably make it look like it is. So just stuff that through the hole. Hopefully it's going to land the right way this time. Come on, in you go. Oh, why won't you get in there? Well, the more resin I've got in there, I guess the less room I've got to push that in. So just poke the tail in. There we go. And it is the right way up, thank goodness. Right, just arrange that. Yep, that's looking pretty good. That's where I want it to be. I can see a couple of really big bubbles down there, so I'm just going to try and weed those out. But to be honest with you, I don't really mind bubbles. It is water after all. Time for the next layer in the big one. And I don't know if you can see, but there is a big bubble right along the edge. So I'm just going to take my pokey tool and I'm going to poke it, make sure that it is opened up, that there's no resin sealing it. I said that I didn't mind bubbles, and I don't, but I really don't want them along the edge because that will just be a hole on the outside of the ball. Now I can add the resin, and hopefully that hole that I've opened up will allow that to flow in. It will fill up that little bubble and you're just not going to know it was there. Okay, I think that's enough. I'm just going to take my stick and make sure that that resin fills that hole in. Chase out any air. And then I should have a nice smooth ball when it's finished. Just give that a quick wiggle. Alright, make sure there are no bubbles anywhere else. I think I've got a couple of blobs that have dried on the edge. Not worried about that so much. It's any bubbles that might be along the outer edge. The bubbles in the middle, they'll be fine. Now that I've chased all the bubbles out, I'm adding the last fish for this layer and just arranging it so that it doesn't cover up any of the other fish. I did want it to go in the middle, but the weed that was in there was stopping it. So just arranged it how I wanted, and then that goes under the lamp. I added a final layer of UV resin to bring it up to the top of the mould on both of the pieces, and then I put them underneath the lamp and cured them for 5 minutes. All cured, and now it's time for demold. And these are not easy to get out of the mould, so I am going to speed this bit up. Okay, bear with, almost there. Got it. Alright, let's have a look at this. Well, it's not as clear as I was hoping. It's a little bit cloudy on the outside, but I've got a plan to rectify that. Now, of course, everything is a little bit magnified, so can you see that it is fish? Yeah, you can from certain angles. I'm going to reserve judgment on this until it is completely finished. It's not quite as clear as I hoped, and it looks like I've put 3 fish in the small one, so I don't quite know what I was doing. I meant to put the 3 fish in the larger one, but that's not bad. Alright, let's have a look at this one. Almost there. There we go. Oh, that is a lot better. It's really nice and clear, and you can see the fish a lot better. You've got a lot more room in this one. I think the other one is just a little too small. The fish look like they're spiralling round. Yeah, that is a lot better. Okay, on to the next bit. I've got these little bell caps to allow you to hang them from a necklace or a keyring, and I'm going to use some of this green stuff instant glue to apply them. So I'm going to pop a little bit around the outside of that hole. Just make sure I get enough there. Oops, that's quite a lot. Now I'm just going to hold that in place until it's set. Alright, that cap is now securely stuck in place, but I do want to just make sure that it has got a really strong bond. The outside of that one is so pretty, but this one not so much. It's cloudy, and because this was the smaller mould, I struggled to get the fish in, which meant that I pulled the mould away from the side, and that allowed some of the resin to flow down over the previously cured layers. So it looks, oh for goodness sake, hold it. So it looks a little bit ugly. I'm going to deal with that by adding some of this UV resin, a lot of this UV resin, into this pot so that I can dip them in. As soon as that's finished with that, I'm going to pour that back into the bottle. Now before I dip these, I just want to make sure that this surface is roughed up a little bit. I'm adding a key to it. So I've got a nail file and I'm gently going to scuff over the surface, just get rid of any lumps that might be on there and give the resin something to grip on. Once I've scuffed all this up, I'm going to wipe it with a paper towel and a little bit of isopropyl alcohol, get rid of any of the dust so that I can dip it in the resin and restore the shine to the outside. I'm going to have to hold that in place for quite a long time, so I've stuck my pokey tool through the hole in the top. I'm just going to take a little bit of blue tack and create a kind of stopper on the outside. So I'm going to put that over the point. That should hold that in place and stop that from falling off, because I do need to hold this for quite some time and I can't pinch the top of that little bell for that length of time. Right, this is easy now. I'm just going to dip that all the way down into the resin, let it come up and just touch the bottom of the bell. Just let it come up the side a very tiny amount. That's going to help to seal that on as well. And now I've just got to leave this to drip. It's going to take quite some time. Even when you think it's stopped dripping, you need to wait a little while because another drip will form. I don't want to brush it off on the side of the cup. I've just got to show patience. So as soon as this has finished dripping, I'll show you what I'm going to be doing next. I'm just waiting for a drop to fall. There it goes. Now that should be the last drop. I've got a very small lump forming on the bottom. I can't show you that, but I'm going to keep turning this around, and that's going to redistribute that resin. It's going to let it flow so that I don't have a lump in any one area. So I'm going to keep that moving, and then I'm going to use my torch to help cure this just enough so that I can pop it underneath my lamp and keep it turning until the whole thing has cured. It's not going to take as long as you think. Alright, that's had about 30 seconds, which is probably enough. So I'm going to keep it moving, but I'm going to put it under my lamp and cure it for 3 minutes. Alright, I've coated both of these and they look super shiny. Let me just take this one off of the stick and then you can have a look. Such a lovely effect when you add an extra layer around the outside. Pretty. Alright, I think these are going to work best as key rings. So I've got a jump ring and that should fit through the hole on the top. Let me just pass that through. And at long last I have got some new tools. So I'm just going to close that jump ring by twisting the two sides back together. Just grab that and twist them. There we go. This is quite a solid jump ring, which is what you want in a key ring. Alright, and now I can take my split ring. So I'm just going to use my thumbnail to separate the split, and then I can pass that onto the jump ring. And there we go. So pretty. So I'm going to do the other one as well. And that is pretty much it. These are finished. It's not the easiest thing to show you what they look like on camera. I will try and get some photos of them. I think they're really cute. The smallest one, I can't really see the fish in it that well, but I'm loving the bigger one. And I hope you've liked this video. If you have, please give me a thumbs up, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't. It is free to you, it really helps my channel, and you'll be able to come back and see what I'm going to make next time. I'm going to leave you with some photos, but thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.